Support WrestleTalk!
Order the magazine using the link below.
Hulk Hogan joined Ted Turner's WCW in 1994 and turned the wrestling world on its head in 1996 when he formed the New World Order. He remained a top star in the company, but a storyline in 2000 forced him to leave WCW and file a defamation of character lawsuit against their head of creative Vince Russo. Was it a shoot? Was it a work, or something blurry in between? I am Luke Owen, and this is the story behind Hulk Hogan suing WCW over a storyline. It's the year 2000, and WCW was struggling in the Monday Night War against the WWF. With ratings and pay-per-view buy rates falling, the answer to WCW's problems, at least as the top brass saw it, was Vince Russo, the former head writer of the WWF, who had been credited for a lot of the great work the company put out during their Attitude Era. Russo came into WCW in 1999 and immediately started his next big idea, doing worked shoots in order to fool fans and the wrestlers backstage. Russo's logic was very simple. He theorized that every wrestling fan was on the internet and reading the dirt sheets. So if he could fool the boys in the back, then he could also fool the fans into believing what they saw in front of them was actually real. The first example of this was at Russo's very first WCW pay-per-view, Halloween Havoc 1999, where he had Hulk Hogan in street clothes lay down for Sting in their World Heavyweight Championship match. The most infamous of Russo's work shoots was actually quite similar, and came at Bash at the Beach 2000, where a confused Hogan pins WCW champion Jeff Jarrett, who had laid down for him. The Hulkster then cut a promo saying WCW was in the damn state it's in because of bullshit like this. Hulk then walked to the back, grabbed his stuff, and stormed out of the building with Eric Bischoff. Later in the night, Russo came out and cut a promo about trying to do right by the younger guys, but was being held back by the politicking of Hulk Hogan. He then called Hogan a piece of and a big bald son of a bitch, and made a new WCW Championship match between Jarrett and Booker T to crown a real world champion. So was it a work or was it a shoot? Perhaps it's put best in The Death of WCW by R.D. Reynolds and Brian Alvarez, which writes, "It was a shoot and a work, or more precisely, a work that turned into a shoot. Even more precisely, it was a half work, half shoot that turned into a full-fledged shoot." According to the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer, there were wrestlers in WCW who believed this was a shoot, calling him up to say they had seen Hogan and Russo arguing all day about the finish to the match, although there were a few questions raised about the situation. If it was a shoot, why were there two World Championship belts at the show? Why wasn't Russo punished for going against the script? Why was the advertised main event of Hogan vs. Jarrett on before Kevin Nash vs. Goldberg? Why was there word among the locker room that Booker T would end the show as world champion? According to several sources, including Hogan himself, the basic idea following Bash at the Beach was that Hogan would leave with the belt, WCW would crown a new world champion, and then those two would collide at Starrcade in a champion versus champion match to crown an undisputed champion. However, that all fell through when Jarrett laid down for Hogan and Russo cut that promo. So here's Vince Russo's side of the story. He claims that he had written the show so it would make Hogan look like Superman, but wouldn't see him win the championship. And 2 hours before the show started, Bischoff told him that Hulk was invoking his creative control and refused to lose. And so Vince Russo told Jarrett to lie down and let Hogan win. And his shoot promo was only designed to blur the lines and fool the internet smart marks. Hogan's side of the story is slightly different. He claimed in an interview with Bubba the Love Sponge a few days after Bash at the Beach that he had agreed to lose to Jarrett. But when Russo then told him he had no creative plans for him going forward, he demanded he win the title. Russo disagreed, and they had to call TBS president Brad Siegel to agree on an outcome. According to Hogan, Siegel and Bischoff backed him, and a new finish was created by John Laurinaitis where Scott Steiner would help him win the championship. Hogan claims that Russo went against the script when he had Jarrett laid down for him, and he certainly didn't agree on Vince Russo cutting a promo on him later in the night. Whether it was a shoot or a worked shoot, or a work that became a shoot, the lawsuit filed by Hulk Hogan was very real. Hogan's attorney John Taylor filed the lawsuit against WCW and Vince Russo in August 2000 following July's Bash at the Beach, which claimed Russo's comments about Hogan were defamation of character and a breach of his WCW contract. Because Hogan had creative control over the Hulk Hogan character and any angles that involved him, and because he hadn't agreed to Russo's promo, which was about the Hulk Hogan character, there was a major problem. In court, WCW representatives argued that promos are used to further storylines, and Hogan's contract agreement was control over the outcome of matches and not storylines. However, Taylor argued that the outcome of a wrestling match is worthless if the storyline changes half an hour later, and Hogan himself testified that he read outcome in his contract to mean how the story would end and not just the match. What's amazing is that this suit lasted well past the point when Vince McMahon purchased all of WCW's assets. This is the reason Universal Wrestling Corporation, basically WCW without anything actually belonging to WCW, was kept alive as a paper company. In the end, the judge ruled in favor of WCW in 2005. We may never know the true story of what happened backstage at Bash at the Beach 2000. Vince Russo reiterates his point in the WWE Network series The Monday Night War, but Eric Bischoff features in the DVD extras on the home entertainment release saying Russo's story is BS, which of course led to Russo releasing a YouTube video saying his version isn't BS. In conclusion, let's learn from Hogan's own words himself from the 16th of October 2011. Good night, Hulkamaniacs and jabroni marks without a life that don't know it to work when you work a work and work yourself into a shoot. Marks. What about the real-life feud between Chris Jericho and Triple H? And what are some of wrestling's biggest video game disasters? Click the video to the left to find out more. Press subscribe and support WrestleTalk on Patreon. I have been Luke Owen, and that was wrestling.